Hello, I'm Bill Moyers, and over my 40 years as a journalist, I've returned often to the story of money in politics. In all that time, I never imagined things could get as bad as they are today. The cost of running for public office is skyrocketing, nearly $4 billion in 2004. Candidates have to get that money somewhere, and the people with lots of it have figured out how to take advantage of the opportunity to game the system in their favor. Our elections are being bought right out from under us, and our public officials are doing the bidding of mercenaries. Money is choking democracy to death. It's buying access and influence for wealthy campaign contributors and corporate lobbyists who then write the legislation, demand payback in the form of political favors and contracts, and elbow out the needs and concerns of regular people. So powerfully does wealth shape our political agenda today that we cannot say America is working for all of America. Covering the corruption is no longer enough. We have to change the system, and we can.
People are more depressed about the system than they've ever been, and I think their concerns about the corruption of elected officials and the influence of the amount of money that's being spent in the political process and the close ties with industry lobbyists. I think people are just over the edge of how they feel about the system.
I think people are more ready for change than ever before. We've gotten more calls to our office, not just from ordinary citizens out across America, but also from Capitol Hill. Even our lawmakers, the men and women in the United States Senate and the House, want to see change.
7 states, Arizona, Connecticut, Maine, New Jersey, New Mexico, North Carolina, and Vermont, and 2 cities, Portland, Oregon, and Albuquerque, New Mexico, have enacted new campaign finance reforms that encourage more and very different kinds of people to run for office. They've instituted clean elections, a system of full public financing that is actually changing political landscapes and legislatures and altering the makeup of courts and commissions. Clean elections is a new and substantially different approach to eliminating the influence of big money over elections. Ultimately, this will affect, to the good, public policy and the kinds of laws that are passed across our country.
I think the clean elections in Maine is a very positive thing, and I think it helps more people that would like to run and that can't run.
Before, the House used to be full of influential white males. Now, thanks to clean elections, you have males and females of different backgrounds, of different cultures, of different races. So now the House is becoming more diversified.
It gives you hope in a sense, and that's, to me, is the most incredible thing, is that we have hope. I mean, it's not in every state, and we're trying to get it in every state, but when you see how it works, it's truly hopeful for greater things.
Clean elections played a large part in being able to pass the prescription drug bill that we have in the state. You know, the pharmaceutical companies are huge, and they spend inordinate amounts of money, and we were able to put through a very revolutionary piece of legislation, and I think that helped.
Under the clean election system, candidates who collected a set number of small contributions in their districts, who agreed to voluntary spending limits, who agreed not to accept campaign contributions from any private source, and not to spend money out of their own pockets, these candidates receive full public funding for their primary and general election campaign. The advantages of a clean election system are many, and often quite immediate. A clean election system means candidates don't have to be wealthy to run for election.
If the NBA was like politics today, I certainly wouldn't be a professional basketball player. Most of the people in the NBA come from very poor backgrounds, so it would be definitely it'd be Ross Perot and the like that would be in the NBA right now playing.
The clean election system is the only system under which I would run. People like me, I'm trained as a social worker and have worked as a social worker in Phoenix for 10 years, would never have the financial resources to run otherwise.
Now that we have the clean elections in the state of Maine, it frees up people to run for office who I really think that wouldn't have dared to do it before because of the challenge of raising money.
If I had to run conventionally, I probably wouldn't. This is not a very rich area that I work in. There's a lot of poverty around, people living on tight budgets or fixed incomes. And I just couldn't go up to them and say, can you give me a couple of $100 to run my campaign?
Public financing levels the playing field and gives people from many different backgrounds a fair shot at getting elected.
I'm a farmer. And I think it's important that farmers have their voice in the legislature, but farmers don't have access to buckets of money, and our friends don't have buckets of money. So it's allowed people, I think, from more common livelihoods to be able to pursue running for office.
To really participate in our political system, you should have something to contribute and something to give that will help the constituencies that you're trying to serve, and not the fact that you have wealth. Access to wealth should mean that you're the one that represent those people.
Public financing of elections involves more people in our democracy.
It allows folks in your district to be actively involved in your campaign by donating $5 contributions to your campaign.
The same amount of money that I spend on a cup of coffee at Starbucks, I can support a clean elections candidate. And that means that I'm involved in the process.
As the Director of Community Affairs for one of the largest private sector labor unions in Arizona, I have seen more of our members get involved in the political process.
One of the things I got to do this election cycle that I had not had an opportunity to do before is host a clean elections party for a series of candidates in my own legislative district. That involved inviting as many people as I could over to my home, each of them making a contribution of $5. That's all. What a refreshing change.
Clean Elections allows candidates to spend time with voters and constituents.
The advantages of running as a clean elections candidate for me are truly that I have much more time to spend with my constituents, and I don't have to worry about attending fundraising events. I can really talk about issues and spend my time going door to door, meeting with constituents and understanding what the issues are that concern them.
I got to spend time with voters as opposed to spending time, dialing for dollars or trying to sell tickets to $250 a plate fundraisers. This was much better.
And politicians say running as a clean elections candidate gives them an electoral advantage.
I think that it's now a standard. I don't think it means you win or it means you lose, but I think that they will look at two candidates, and if they are very similar, and one of them is running clean and the other one is not, it can have some influence, especially in a place like Portland.
A person who runs on clean elections, they're letting me know that, I'm not owned by any corporations, I'm not owned by any PACs, I'm not owned by, people who have a lot of money and a lot of influence. I'm running for the citizens.
The good news is, in a state like Maine, where people in the state legislature have gotten used to the system, 3/4 of the legislators run under the system now, Republicans and Democrats. So once people get used to it, they love it. I mean, nobody would want to do it any other way. The idea of going back to raising all that money and tying yourself up, and not being able to actually campaign with the voters, I don't think you could talk people into going backwards on it.
The clean election system reduces the impact of lobbyists and special interests. And once people are elected under the clean election system, they are accountable only to voters.
It allows me to be independent. I'm able to walk into a committee hearing or a floor debate and be able to do what is best for my district and not have to worry about what special interest is thinking.
The citizenry is more empowered simply because the candidates are no longer beholden to big corporations. They're no longer beholden to political action committees.
I think that increases my accountability because I know that in 2 years, I have to get back out to those doors and talk to those same voters. And they're going to tell me if they're happy with what I've done or not.
You're knocking on doors, you're meeting with constituents, you're involving them in the process, which creates more accountability, and it changes the way that you govern.
Your legislator basically is beholden only to you, and you have as much access as anybody else. If you are the poorest person or the richest person, you still have equal representation.
And what a difference this new system has made where it's been put in place. More people are running for office.
Here in Arizona, we have seen an increase in competition with the introduction of campaign finance reform through clean elections. More people are running for office. We're seeing seats that are challenged that haven't been challenged in years.
More women and more minorities are running.
It brings about inclusiveness. It also brings about a good amount of competitiveness, and it opens it up in diversity as well.
Because of clean elections, voters have more choices, and they're choosing clean elections candidates. Just look at the track record in the 2 states that have clean elections in place the longest, since 2000. Today in Maine, 83% of the state Senate and 77% of the House is made up of legislators who were elected using the Clean Elections program. In Arizona, 10 out of 11 statewide office holders ran and won under their Clean Election system, and 48% of the state House and 23% of the state Senate are members who ran using public funding. That's an increase from the previous election cycle. And in North Carolina, which in 2004 offered full public financing to judicial candidates for the first time, publicly financed candidates won both Supreme Court races and 2 of the 3 Court of Appeal seats.
Being a Clean Elections elected official now, there's a lot of freedom that comes with that. I really can focus on what my constituents need and not worry about if I'm upsetting anybody and if it's going to cost me in the next election.
Arizona was one of the first states in the United States to require our utilities to generate a portion of their electricity from renewable sources of energy, such as solar. I'm not sure that would have happened in the old days when the utility lawyers and lobbyists had a great influence on the decisions of the commission.
We have also been able to pass some very strong legislation around tobacco, around tobacco taxes and banning smoking in public places. I am sure that the fact that the tobacco industry has not been able to buy their way into elections or buy their votes was able to help that.
I think the next step for clean elections is nationally. I think that it's proven where it's being used, that it's doing what it's supposed to do.
I am enthusiastic that we can do this at a federal level, particularly since there's been increasing momentum in the states. But we can't do it without the support of the public. I mean, it is a grassroots effort. It's a citizens' lobby. It takes a lot of pressure to get Congress to change.
If it can work in Maine, if it can work in Arizona, if it can work in Connecticut, then there's hope that it may work in a lot of other states, and that, hopefully when we have enough states under our belt, we can form a movement where we can do it at a federal level.
To win clean elections in Washington, D.C., we're going to need an outpouring of citizen activism at the grassroots level like we've never seen before.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if all of the states would adopt our clean elections law? We would change Washington, D.C.
The clean election system of public financing is changing campaigning, helping to put an end to business as usual, rotten business as usual. If anybody's going to own our politicians, it should be we the people. Clean elections is the way to do it. Remember, there are no victimless crimes in politics. The cost of corruption gets passed on to you. Big donors get what they want from politics and government, and you wind up paying the bill. In the words of Louis Brandeis, one of the greatest of our Supreme Court justices, you can have wealth concentrated in the hands of a few, or democracy, but you cannot have both. Your support for clean elections is how we'll save democracy.
As we've just seen in this video, Clean Elections campaign reform is about making our elections about voters, not the people who give the big money. Right now, there are tens of thousands of concerned people around the country who are working to establish clean elections in their state and for our federal government as well. There are people just like you who want fair elections on a level playing field and politicians who will listen to the voters and not to the voice of big money. I hope this video inspires you to join a growing army of grassroots people who are tired of politics as usual and want to win big changes. To find out more about clean elections around the country and how you can become involved, please visit our website at www.publiccampaign.org.